Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Enbridge Consulting and our series of webinars. My name is Tim Adams, the Global Learning and Development Manager at Enbridge, and I'm joined today by Trevor Nash.
Good morning, everybody.
Today, we're looking at modular structures and in particular, creating an organisational chart. Trevor has pre-recorded a demonstration of the org chart setup. And what we'd like to do is run through that with you and then take questions at the end. You'll see a chat window or a chat feature of this Zoom connection, this webinar. So please drop questions into the chat and we can look at those for you at the end of this session.
Hi, my name is Trevor Nash, one of the principal trainers here at Enbridge Consulting. Today, I want to talk about structures and how you can use structures to create an organizational chart. Structures are part of the modular family, and you will find structure setup and modular in the common folder. Modular can present any hierarchy in a company. A typical use of modular is to give a correct graphical presentation of an organizational structure. You can also use modular to modify the underlying structure. Any changes will first be saved as a draft, which need formal approval before taking effect. So why create an organizational chart? Whether you are in HR or one of the other work streams, an organization chart can provide a hierarchy view of the job structure, perhaps showing projects, project managers, and cost centers. What are the benefits of an organizational chart? Well, they provide a good visual overview of the organization. You can drill down into the organizational structure and look at more detail, say the project or perhaps the resource in more detail. Advanced steps like providing sensitive access can be set up. You can't show pay slips to everyone. You can apply what-if scenarios. So where you could do a change to see if it would look good using browsers. And you can also use the organizational chart as a very useful reporting tool. So first, let's look at a simple organizational chart. Here you can see 5 levels, the CEO up the top, and then going through to division, through to section, through to cost center, and through finally down to resource. All these are connected via relations. So the relations must be in place as a prerequisite before you start. So we are logging back into Business World, and we're going to look at an organizational chart that's already in place. So I will go down to Common. I will scroll down to Structures and look for Modular. I will select Modular, and in there is the Modular page. So I will open up Modular. In the Structure menu on the left-hand side, you will see a drop-down, and the one that I'm looking at is Organization Chart. So I will select that, and you can see that it comes up with an of date. And on the right-hand side, you will see that everything is collapsed. So at the top level, you can see that there is the CEO showing the responsible person, who is the resource related to that CEO. And then as I go down, you will see, first of all, division, administration and management, marketing and product. Then we go further down, you will see section, and I could open up all these to give you the full hierarchy. As we go down to the next step, we will see cost center, and then on the final step, we can go down to the resources. Notice that the resource here is showing a photograph with some information. This is set up via something called dynamic zoom, and we'll see the dynamic zoom setup in a short time. Now what I want to do is show you how that is built in Modeler. So I'm please ignore the phone in the background. We are now going to go back into Common. We're going to go down into structures and we're going to look at structure setup. The structure that we opened up just now was org chart. So if we just do org chart and select that and tab, we can now see that the org chart is got an area here with some high level detail and then how the structure is built in the structure levels. So let's just have a little look in more detail. We've got the short name, org chart. We have got the description, organization chart. We've got the date when it was effective from, 1st 2009, till this final date, which is always put as 2099 to give you opportunities of having different versions in between. You've got the status, which could be active, parked, or closed. We are, of course, using active. You've got the resource that the organization chart is based on. Because all the levels that we are going to be using from resource up to CEO have resources, we're going to base everything on resource. You can also have an organizational chart based on a browser template. In our one that we create in a moment, I won't be doing that, but this one has got the browser template shown. On our structure levels, we can see that the first level is from attributes. Now, if you look at this, we can see that it's from attribute and the attribute is resource and the resource, and the attribute over here is Resno. On the second level, which is cost center, is selected from a relation, the relation of resource. And over here, you can see all these are the relations to resource, and we are choosing cost center. On the third one, you can see once again, it's from relation, and this is the relations to cost center. And here you'll be able to see that all these are related to cost center. We are using section. The fourth level is with relation again, and these are the relations to section, and we're looking at, well, there's only two relations to section, division and resource. We are of course using division. And the final one is a relation to division, and that is CEO. So you can see that we've got our organizational chart looking a bit upside down. We've got the lowest level at the top and the most aggregated level at the bottom. And this is how they're built. So recap from attribute and then from relation, from relation, from relation, from relation. Now you will notice that if I select, say the second one on cost center, we have got the responsible person highlighted here. So for the cost center, to get the cost center manager, we would have to do from relation resource, and that would give us the cost center manager. We'll see that in a little while when we build one. And once again, if we did that for section, division, and CO, each of these are showing for those four variations. The staff units are for additional attributes used for the organizational chart. We're not going to be showing that here, nor are we going to be showing alternative level connections. Alternative level connections are for organizational charts which are unbalanced in such that they might have section and then another level called section. So in other words, they're using the same attribute for two different levels and making it unbalanced rather than a smooth build organizational chart. What we're going to do now is clear the screen and we're going to build our own organizational chart. So I'm going to click clear. By the way, I shall mention all these in a moment. So I'm going to click clear and I'm going to click new. And we're going to build an organizational chart demo. So I'm just going to do org chart demo, and I'm going to tab, and then org chart demo again. I'm going to leave the effective date as of today and the to date to 2099. I'm going to have the status as active. I'm going to have the attribute as resource. And I'm not going to be using any templates for this actual demo. Down in the structure level, I'm going to, first of all, select from attributes. And the attribute I'm going to select is resource. So I'm just going to do the drop down there, start writing resource, select it, and tab. The node setup I will be showing you in a little while. So I'm just going to build the basic structure first. My second line is going to be from relation. So I'm going to choose from relation, and the relation of resource is to cost center. That's the build that I want to do. So I'm just going to choose cost center. Whoops, let's just try that again. You've got to be careful of choosing cost center and not cost categories here. So there's cost center. Third one, we're going to have section. Fourth one, we're going to have division. And the fifth one, we're going to have CEO. So we've got this basic build all the way from resource up to the CEO. Now I'm just going to validate the structure for a second. It says validation okay. So what it's doing is checking to see that if these are true relations in the build, which they are. I'm now going to save it, and you can see that it's successfully saved. Org chart demo. So what we're going to do now is go to Modeler and have a little look at what we've built. So I'm going to close that first Modeler screen down and reopen it again, so it's nicely refreshed. And I'm looking for org chart demo, the one that we just built. And once again, you can see that everything starts collapsed, and there's no data in this. We can't see who the responsible person is at CEO level, but we will put more detail in a moment. But we should have the basic build. So let's have a little look. We do have the 3 divisions. We do have the sections. Let me just open this one. We do seem to have the cost centers. Let me take this one as well, because we'll be basing most of our work around these 3. And we do seem to have our cost centers, but the cost centers don't have that pretty photograph of the person inside, nor very much detail like the one we saw just now. So we're going to be basically adding some more detail to this in a moment. So let's go back to our structure setup. Now, as we look at the items here, you remember I mentioned the responsible level. So if I go to the cost center and I want to identify the cost center responsible person, I'm going to have to open this up and put in a value here. So I'm going to choose from relation against resource, and this will now give me the cost center manager. I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to choose level 3, go and add a responsible person. So I'm going to do from relation, once again, from resource, and this will give me the section head. I'm going to go to level 4, choose it again, from relation, resource, and this will be giving me the divisional manager. And lastly, I'm going to go for the CEO, from relation, for resource, and this will give me the resource allocated against the CEO. So that's great. Let's save that. Now what I want to do, I want to refresh the modeler. So what I'll do, I'll just change it to a different one and then change it back to org chart demo. Now the first thing you see is Herbert Davids is shown as the responsible person for CEO. And as we go through, we can see the divisions now have got their management, they're responsible people. The sections have got theirs. The cost centers are showing their responsible people. And if I just go over to here, you will see that the resources hasn't changed. So we need to do something about the resources in a moment. What we're going to do now is go back to the structure setup and do a little bit more. Now, if I showed you over here on this node setup, you will see that it wants, if I just move this up a little bit, you will see that the node setup is requiring something called zoom. And this is taken from the dynamic zoom. So we need to go and look at what dynamic zoom is. But if we just have a little look at what we could choose there, we could choose zoom on resources or chart resno node info. So remembering that, I'm going to concentrate on chart resno node info for a moment. So let's go and have a quick look into common, dynamic zoom, and dynamic zoom setup. The one I'm going to be looking for is chart resno node info. And if I select that, the dynamic zoom is showing us two lines of information. The first line is the document. I'm going to select that and I can see that it's a small size document. The document type is image of the employee, and the image has got a tick there showing image. So that means basically that piece of information is showing the image of the employee. The second one is based on a browser. And you can see here that the browser template is called Zoom Resources. And on the browser, it gives you all of these outputs. The ones that are ticked are the ones that would be displayed in the box, but you could tick all of them if you wanted to. So at the moment, age, gender, and seniority is ticked for this dynamic zoom. We could, of course, add any of these as well. So that is what the dynamic zoom looks like. There is one other that I wanted to show you, and that is, if I can just go to it, is this zoom on resources. Now this is based on a browser as well, but also it's got documents. So the whole thing has got a document, a browser template, and it's also taking some employee rates and other things that are giving you yearly salary history, address, contact, and personal documents. So the zoom on resources is giving you a whole bunch of information. So that's what the dynamic zoom looks like. Now let's go back to our structure setup and have a little look at this node setup. Now on the left-hand side, the node setup, we can select what we see in the node. And on the right-hand side, the node details, it shows you what you can expand from the node. In other words, additional information. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to choose chart resno node info. I'm not going to make it specific to a role, so I can leave that empty. And on the right-hand side, I'm going to choose the other one, which was the zoom on resources. So this information will be seen in the box. This one will be seen if you click the information icon on the box. So I'm going to say OK to that. And that is based on the resource. So let's save that. Say OK. Now I'm going to go back to Modeler. I'm going to just do a refresh. So just go out of that and come back in again. And I'm going to go down. Oops, let's move that up a little bit. Down to, now we can see it. We can see James Brady, we can see Stanley Quayle, we can see Kelly there, and we can see the bits of information that we asked for. In the chart Resno node info, we asked for a photograph and 3 bits of information: age, gender, and seniority. And you can see that that is likewise for all the other resources. And if I click the information button, you will see we get the other information that we asked for from the Zoom on resource, and that is salary information, address if it was set up, contact information, pay docs. Some of this information is not set up against the resource, but the information is there if you want it. I'm going to just minimize that, and I'm going to say, well, we're nearly there now, but what I would like to polish this off a little bit is seeing the photographs of all the other levels. Now, the photographs of the other levels, I don't want to bring all this age, seniority, and gender. I only want to see the photograph. So the way we're going to do that is by creating our own dynamic zoom. So I'm going to clear the screen on dynamic zoom, and I'm going to put in a dynamic zoom called photo only. Photo underscore only, and then just put over here photo only. I'm going to base it on attributes, and the attribute I'm going to base it on is resource. When you choose resource over here, it's actually the code of resource, which is Resno. So I'm going to choose Resno. I'm going to add, but I'm only going to add a document. So I'm going to choose document. I'm going to choose the size being small, and I'm going to choose image of the employee. And I'm going to tick this box over here, image of the employee. And I will be able to set that up against all the resources of the different levels. So I'm going to save that. Now I'm going to go to structure setup. I may have to refresh this, so let me just see if it works, if it's dynamic enough. Yes, it is. Photo only, photo only. So at level 2, I'm going to select photo only. At level 3, notice I'm doing it against the responsible person on the node setup. I'm going to be choosing photo only. On level 4, I'm going to go down to responsible person and in the node and select photo only. And on level 5. We'll choose photo only, say OK. And that means now that all of the 4 levels below the resource should have a photograph. I'm going to save that. And we're going to go back to Modeler. I'm going to give it a quick refresh. And here we are. We can see that our Chief Executive Officer has got a photograph, and at the lower levels, you'll see photographs, of those as well. So we've just gone through a simple setup and a simple modification to get what you need in your organizational chart. What we're going to do now is do a modification on it. So in other words, I want to execute a change in Modeler. Now, what I want to do, I'm just going to take this down a little bit, and I'm going to expand this, and I'm going to expand this. Now, what I want to do, I want to move Stanley Quayle from cost center 115 and put him in cost center 100. Now to do that, I'm going to need to do a draft over here. So I'm going to create the draft and carry out the change. So I'm going to create draft. I'm going to call the draft, and I'm going to use a naming convention which might be useful to you. I'm going to do 170919, which is today's date, -01, which is the first draft of today. And I'm going to put move Stanley Wow from cost C115 to cost C100. I'm going to make it valid from today. And what I'll do, I'll just copy what I've done there as a description and paste it in there. Now I'm going to save that. Success. It's draft. It's moved Stanley Quayle from cost center 115 to cost center 100. And it shows the actual draft number there. So that's good. We have got that, and you can see the draft is there. You do have the opportunity to edit if you want, or delete it. And what we're going to do, we're going to make that change and then validate it and then approve it. So we'll talk about the approval status in a moment. So I'm going to open it up. Now, if I take Stanley Quayle now and move it up, you can see a green tick showing. That would not have been there earlier on. Because we're in a draft state now, it's allowing us to make a move. So I can move that into there. So I will basically drag it and drop it into cost center 100. You'll notice that it's gone from 115, but in all reality, it hasn't done the change yet. And I'm going to prove that to you for a sec. If I go to personnel, and if I just bring up Stanley, and I go to relations, down here you'll see Stanley still belongs to cost center 115. So nothing has changed yet, but we will come back to this window later on and prove that it has changed. So we're going back to modeler. I'm going to assume that Stanley is in there. Well, let's not assume. Let's go in and have a little look. Let's just bring that down a little bit so we can see. Whoops. I mean that. You can see Stanley is there. Now, sorry about that. It's always fun and games. If I can just bring it up a little bit, you can see Stanley is there, but it's got a little red triangle in the corner. That is showing you that it's in a draft state and has not actually taken effect. What we're going to do now is validate it. So I'm going to validate the change. Draft move Stanley Quayle from cost center 115 to cost center 100 has been verified and may be approved or sent for approval. Now, on the approval steps, if workflow is set up ready for this change, you will see that this box says send for approval. But as workflow is not in fact effective at the moment, in other words, there's no process for this, it's allowing you to approve it or allowing pre-authorized users to approve it from this level here. So as I'm logged in as a system administrator, I can do the approval. So if I just click approval, I'll approve. Are you sure you want to approve move Stanley Quayle from cost center 115 to 100? Yes, I am. So I'm going to say okay on that. The draft move from 115 to cost center 100 is approved. Now, is it? No, because there's one more step that needs to be done, and I will show you that now. If you go into the menu structure and go back down to common and then down into the structures, there is a ordered report called update relations based on modeler, and until that is done, the change will not take effect. Now, that could be automated if you wanted to, but yeah, if it's not automated, you need to run it manually. So we are going to click that. I'm going to choose the structure, which is org chart demo. I'm going to choose the draft version, which is 170919-1. I'm going to force update on conflicts. In other words, if there's other changes being made, we are forcing ours, and we're going to make sure that the execution is updated. So I'm going to do those two things and save. This is successfully saved, and the report output has an order number. So I'm going to say OK to that, and I'm going to go to your ordered reports to see that report. I can see that the report is finished. It was order number 1 of the GL36. I'm going to just have a quick look at the report to tell me what it says. Okay. It says that resource 778 has been moved from cost center 115 to cost center 100. So that looks very promising. I'm going to go back to personnel, and I'm going to change, sorry, I will close personnel and reopen it so that we can see that it's actually taken effect. So personnel, and I'm looking for Stanley Quell. I'm going to change that. Relations, and I'm going to go down here, and here you can see Stanley Quell now belongs to cost center 100. And if I just update this as well and go through, sorry if it's a bit small, but I'll make it bigger here. Here you can see Stanley Quell is always happens. There he is on the left, and you can see that there is no red triangle in there now. So that has taken effect. So that is how you would do that. I'd just like to finish now and just say that if you wanted to carry out a what if scenario, going through this process and testing the change in, say, a browser report without actually updating the relations, you can do that. And you'll find more about how to do that in our modeler structure training course, which is coming soon to the Ambridge Consulting Public Training Catalogue. So that concludes this webinar on organizational charts. I'll be pleased to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor. That was excellent. But we have Trevor live in the room with us now, of course. And we had one question pop up. I do invite you to put any questions you have into the chat. But one question was, can you set up approvals for structures in workflow, Trevor?
Yes, indeed you can. If you set up a workflow process and the element type for the workflow process will be structure setup draft, that could be going to a user with an approve or reject scenario. And once that is enabled and live, as I mentioned earlier on, that box in the draft will change from approve to send for approval. I tested that very recently, and that is actually what it does. So if you've got workflow enabled, it will change how that page looks, and it will go for approval.
Thanks, Trevor. And one more question just popped in. Can you split employees over cost centers?
Yes, you can. there is a similar thing that we're designing for the training course coming up, and that will be put in the employees in different cost centers, different managers, and we'll be able to see that you can't see all the details at the various levels. It all depends on your position. So it's certainly important that we don't allow all details to be seen.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Trevor. We have no more questions at this point, so it just leaves me to say thank you very much for joining us today. We hope that was very useful for you. Please do keep an eye on the Enbridge website for the next webinars that are coming up. So from me and from Trevor,
thank you.
We thank you very much for today and look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you and goodbye.